guys, welcome to Femme Fables podcast. Megan here.
Deidre.
Did you forget your name for a second? Like deer in the headlights. I'm leaving that in. I'm not taking that out actually. So today's topic is talking about something that I recently became quite the expert on because it's actually happened to me recently, but rebound relationships and rejection. So more so, you broke up with somebody or they broke up with you, you're in the healing stage, you're still going through it, and then all of a sudden you find out they're dating someone else.
They moved on.
And your thought is, how in the world could they move on? Why am I still in this place?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're out being, and it usually is through social media, because let's be honest, we stalk our exes to see what they're doing, especially if we're still healing and trying, or maybe we want to get back together with them, or
we
whatever.
want them to be as miserable for as long as possible.
And actually, I was watching a video that said the reason why you look up their social media is because that's the only connection you still have with that person.
Right.
So that's feeding that connection still, even though you're not talking to each other or what have you. So I've watched a lot of videos on this. I think I did 6 hours of psychotherapy video watching. Research, we'll call it research, yesterday on this. So I know we both have very similar situations where the person we dated then moved on to somebody else quickly and was boastful about it almost, like on social media. Look how happy I am with this person. Right. They're so great. I think the first thing that hit me was, don't ever think that that person is now someone different with someone else.
Right.
People don't change that quickly, if ever, depending. So let's say, so in my example, the guy kind of ghosted me, he breadcrumbed me, he came back in my life, kind of vanished again, right? And in my mind, I was thinking, God, he's probably so great to her.
Wonder what makes us think that somehow that a switch goes on and now they're the person that we idealized with someone else and not us.
I don't know what it is, honestly.
Because it's very unlikely.
Yeah, but doesn't everybody have that thought? Even my friend was telling me she just had a breakup recently, and the guy decided he wanted to move on, and she's like, he's going to be so much better for someone else. And I'm like, no, he's not.
No, he's not.
He may hide it for a little while, or it may be somebody who is more vulnerable or easily deceptive if you were dealing with somebody who was that way.
Right.
If it was a great person and it just didn't work out, I think that's a little different than somebody you find out that kind of lied and manipulated you, and now you're like, okay, this is just an act.
Yeah.
You're putting on an act.
It's a show, and sometimes you think it's a show for you. Like they're pushing it in your face.
Like pushing your buttons.
Yeah. They're like, look what I'm doing that you wanted. And it's interesting that somebody else's relationship, it can be 100% about getting your reaction.
I didn't think about that. Because you're right. Like sometimes, okay, so you see a video or something on social media and they're wearing a shirt that you bought them. Right? And you're like, is this a dig? Is this person trying? And if there's somebody who's manipulative, they might actually be trying to push your buttons.
Maybe.
Especially if you're not talking to them, because they may be like, let's see if I can push her to get a reaction out, because that feeds my, the
ego relationship that you have.
She's not over me. Look at me, ha ha ha. But I think, so I've also had, when I've had a breakup with somebody who was truly a wonderful person that I thought I was going to spend my life with, I got over that easier than the recent one where I felt lied and manipulated.
Because it triggered your insecurities.
Right.
And when the other situation happened, you trusted that you were valued and loved. It just didn't work out.
Because he told me that. He's like, I love you very much.
Yeah.
And I mean, he recently tried to get back together with me, and I was not in a place because I was healing from this dickwad that I recently dated. But
dickwad.
I should be kinder.
Nope.
So...
But what you were saying is that when you had that long-term relationship with someone that you thought you would spend your life with, it was easier to move away from it because you trusted that it was based on something, like it just didn't work out. He was this, whatever the breakup was.
He said he wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And if I truly loved him, which I did at the time, I wanted him to be happy.
Yeah.
Now, thank God he wasn't on social media. I mean, the guy has 2 total posts. I've talked about him before.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's wrong
so
with
much easier.
So it is. You really completely disconnect. And there were times where I got like drunk and crying and texted him. And he was very kind to me. He was like, I do love you, but I'm just not in a place to... Right. I don't think he wanted the same things as me at that time. I was ready for marriage and kids and all of that. So...
But if you recognize that you're breaking, like you go through a breakup, even if you dated someone a week, a month, 6 months, it's a new situation, and that person has now triggered or created a situation that's negative, triggered your vulnerabilities, triggered your insecurities, it's harder to go over because there's no resolve.
Yep.
So they move on,
Mm-hmm.
and you're still dealing with the breakup.
Right. So the next thing is that I think we do is don't compare yourself to the person you're with.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself doing that.
It's so easy to do that.
She's younger, she seems fun, but
Mm-hmm.
again, you're only getting that highlight reel of their life, which is their social media, which nobody, like we said, usually talks about the bad things about their life. It's all, look at me, look how happy I am, what have you. So you got to remind yourself of your own attributes. Like, I'm still successful. I still have a lot going for me. I'm fun. Now, maybe in that relationship, it was stressful, so I wasn't as much fun, and it was during, like, height of the pandemic, so it was just kind of a weird time. But, not comparing yourself to that person. But then when you see them, because didn't your ex do that? Like, boasted about them more than they ever did about you.
Yeah, absolutely. And in those situations, you're like, well, why were they more valuable than me? Why did they matter? And in hindsight, looking back, you're like, it doesn't matter. They probably just did it to get attention from that person that they wanted. They play a part.
Right.
That they play a part in the moment, and they can never be sustained. Because they always go back to who they actually are. And if they're emotionally unavailable people, they will return to that person. So comparing yourself to the poor new victim really is kind of like, you almost want to pity them because you know that they're going to go through something.
Right. And I think there's two sides we're talking about. The rebound where you had a good relationship with your ex, and the rebound where you realize your ex manipulated you, or is a narcissist or a sociopath or whatever. Like Deidre was saying, somebody who's like that is only doing it for show usually.
Right. Yeah. Or they're playing a part because they almost like they put on a pair of pants that's not theirs. They put on the coat. The coat is the good relationship. Mm-hmm. And they can only wear that for so long. It becomes heavy, and they want to wear their normal outfit. It's like wearing, like when I wear heels or anything fancy, I feel like I'm wearing a costume. Mm-hmm. And by the end of the night, I want to take that shit off and wear boots. Yeah. This is not me.
Right.
But I try to wear that sometimes to fit into a part.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize at the end of the day, that's just not who I am.
Right.
So that happens in all kinds of relationships. Yeah, somebody will like my boots.
Yeah. Well, your husband obviously likes your boots. The other thing that I thought, and I think this is what I'm actually struggling with the most in this particular situation, is my ego.
Yeah.
I think my ego is hurt more than the thought of not being with this person.
So your ego is hurt more than like the way you valued him, like the respect you had, or like how you view that person?
Well, I recently found out he had been dating someone. He was not honest with me about it. We still texted here and there. Nothing like, sexual really, but enough for he should have probably told me, because I was trying to meet up with him because I wanted to get back together. And had he told me months ago, which I found out he's been dating her for months, I could have healed probably a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Instead I held on to this hope, and part of it's my fault. I am completely guilty. I think that's one of the lessons I learned from it was I should have walked away and let go in the moment that he started mistreating me, as far as not responding to my text, telling me he'd meet up and not hearing from him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's when you're like, okay, this person's mistreating me or being disrespectful to me. I'm walking away.
But you're in a loop then.
Yeah, I was in a loop.
Yeah. And you're like trying to have some engagement, and then the engagement is becoming different than normal engagement.
Right.
Because you're triggered.
Yeah. But had I known he was with somebody, yeah, I would have been hurt, but I would have never been talking about us having
hangouts,
shower sex. You know what I mean? And stuff like that.
Because it's a no-fly zone.
Right. So
he put you in a situation where you did something that you wouldn't normally do.
I would never do that. If I knew he was in a relationship, I care enough about him, and I still care about him. It doesn't erase it away, but it's like I care enough that I would want you to be happy, and we could have probably parted as being on decent terms. But now that it's
awkward.
Right, awkward, lies and manipulation involved, or I feel it. Maybe he has his own story, right? There's two sides to every story.
There's two sides. And I think we don't even know you can't know what that is. We just assume.
We're assuming a lot.
We're assuming it through our narrative, which is how we view the new relationship, or how we view somebody from the outside is never as accurate as being that person.
Right. So all that to say, I think my ego is hurt because, before I met him, I was at like such a high in my life, like perfectly happy being single, being successful, all these things. Like, I've always wanted to be married and have kids, and I know that will come with time, and I knew that at the time. And then I kind of become vulnerable with this person and open up my home to them and my bed and, share my life with them, and they don't want me.
I think that's exactly what I had gone through in the past. It's when you allow yourself to be vulnerable to somebody when maybe you hadn't before. And
Virgos do not express vulnerability very much. Yeah.
So then when you do, that person, it's almost like it's so special to you, but maybe not to them in the same way. And when it goes
That's exactly
a
right.
completely different way, or they abandon ship, you feel so like triggered, like abandonment. Your self-worth goes into the gutter, and you really just kind of loop in there negatively. I understand that when people come in and they trigger you, but there is another side to that it's not always intentional on their part. They're just being them,
right?
And we're responsible for ourselves,
right? No, that's very true. So I think ego plays a big part. Like, why them? There was so much. That's your ego. Like, that's talking. And Matthew Hussey is the guy I talk about a lot that I watch his relationship stuff, and he was like, kick that motherfucker out the door. Your ego out the door. Like, because someone who wants to be with you, or will be with you, is the one who chooses you. So there's this video of this guy, and he's clear. Like, Matthew Hussey caters to women usually, like in relationships, and he has this whole like retreat that he does or whatever. And so there's a sea of women in this audience, and like one guy, and he stands up and he was like, "My ex-girlfriend watched you all the time, so I wanted to come here and kind of see, right?" And he's like, she started dating somebody soon after, and they were together like 5 years. And the man almost broke down, and he was so hurt. And
was he just trying to understand what she was learning there?
Yes, I think so. Or like learn more about women and how they,
Yeah.
Because you're probably you try to rationalize the situation. Like, well, okay, what were they talking to this person? Why they were talking to me? That leads me to another quote. I'll put that in the parking lot and bring it back. But he says, in your dream person, are they with someone else?
No.
Then they're not your dream person, right? Like, and then you're like, in that moment, you're like, oh my God, light bulb, right? But
like, why did I think this person could be my person?
They're not
even available.
You're right. The one for you chooses you.
Because I do know that. I know that you struggle and you fight where you're like, why isn't this person calling me back? Women go through this so much. Why is this person waiting 3 days with an excuse? I lost my phone. We've talked about that sometimes in prior videos. And you say, like, somebody who wants you will be looking for you, calling you, being there. It's just a fact.
They get excited when they see that message from you. Yeah.
They get excited, and it isn't the other way. So we really have to rewire our brains to see what reality is in that way. So like, your dream person is not with somebody else in that moment, he's choosing you.
Yeah.
That's
so
great.
The other quote was my research on rebound relationships, and it says, no one leaves their only pair of shoes. Meaning, no one's going to leave you unless they have another pair of shoes. Which I find interesting. So
can you elaborate on that?
Okay, so you're never going to leave somebody else unless you have someone else.
Right. So some people, is that talking about like back doors, people like leaving back doors open or having somebody waiting?
Right. There's somebody in the wings, or else they probably would, especially if they have manipulative behavior.
I think that that's what people do all the time to women, like reaching out to them. It's sort of like a tendril. We've talked about this, a tendril of a possibility out there that makes them feel like, So they can be in a relationship.
Giving you just enough to like leave you in the loop.
To keep you checking in.
Right.
Yes, they do that. They try to be like, I still care about you, without ever actually having to show you that they care about you.
Right. Yeah, because this guy was like, I still care about you and think of you. I'm like, not enough clearly to tell me the truth.
I think we need to have higher standards of what showing care is.
And if you're one of those people who's left someone for somebody else and it worked out great, I think like statistically they say it's like only 5% work once, somebody jumps into another relationship quickly. But, if somebody asked you directly that you dated, that you're still in contact with, be honest. Like, it's not like,
I thought about that. Like, I think sometimes it's self-justifying.
It could be. Or they don't want to admit their own guilt. Like, they feel guilty.
In their mind, they're like, well, we're not really. It's not going so well. So they can say.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Do you know when people say, like, I didn't fuck that guy. He kissed me. They switch the story around to make it sound lesser than. Right. It's lying, effectively, but they're minimizing the relationship.
And that's true, and that could have been in that moment. Maybe it wasn't going well, and there could be that level of, it's not going well, so I want to keep this person hanging on just in case. So, but I really like that. The right person is the one who chooses.
I like that too.
That's super huge. The fear that the new relationship will last
longer than the one
than yours, or be like, I think irrationally, when you see it happen, you think this person's so happy, they're going to get married, they're going to have babies, they're going to have this life that I wanted.
Right.
This, this is my person. This
and
is
your
the person
dream is
I
going
had
like,
the dream. Yeah, your dream is going down in the toilet. And then that goes back to most times when people are jumping, and especially if it's somebody who has like a level of either mental health issue or something, they can't sit in their own feelings for long enough, and that's why they jump to the new relationship, because new relationships are fun.
Yeah.
There's that release of dopamine, like this is exciting.
Yeah.
But the same thing's gonna happen once the
dopamine wears off,
or that has higher expectations,
yeah,
or starts calling them out on their bullshit.
it's like fill the void.
Right. They're like, oh, now time to go find the next one to make me happy and have fun with, and that could not be the case. Like maybe they could totally work out, what have you.
I think people use other people's bodies as a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
They're like filling a void with other people, and those people are kind of a victim.
Yeah.
To that person's inability to have any self-awareness.
And that's the thing too, is that it could work out with that person. If that person is vulnerable and also has issues in abandonment and attachment issues and all of that, it could work out because they're constantly going to get fed.
Yeah. But that's also why I think some people say, like, why do I keep finding all these crazy girls? It's because you're attracting all the same people. You're looking for the same trauma in people.
Right. Yep. So that was that one. Don't let it impact your self-worth. That's huge.
What was the name of the podcast for that hussy gentleman? Is it just his name?
Yeah, he just has like his channel is just like his, and then he has all these relationship dating advices. So I think this one was about like your ex moving on. Like that was the specific title of it, but his channel is just his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a super hot British guy, by the way. Super hot. That helps. So don't let it impact your self-worth. I think that goes back to comparing.
How do you do that?
I think you have to remind yourself, and I was watching something that said write it down. Write down a list of everything you've accomplished, things that you're proud of, things that you're like, you know what, this is really going great for me.
Your great qualities. That's like a grounding technique.
Right. Yeah, it is a grounding technique. I sent your grounding technique to one of my friends. Yeah.
But really it is. If you're like, I am worth something, I am this, you're grounding yourself back to reality, so you're not looping into this, I'm worthless, they don't want me, they want
somebody else. Like,
and it has nothing to do with them. They are also, as much as say people are using other bodies as like a coping mechanism, we're using them to feed our trauma. Because it's not even about the relationship anymore. It's about the ego and the healing.
Right, and that's exactly, I think, something I think that really sets our show and podcast apart is the fact that we talk about our own personal stories on it. You hear a lot of do this, do that, but nobody actually relates.
Like you're going through this right now.
Yeah, I'm going through this.
This is in real time.
This is in real time that this is happening.
But I think
that's the last couple weeks.
That's why people connect to the story so much. Yeah. And the healing is real, and it's like like this is vulnerable. This is being vulnerable. It's brave. So I applaud you.
Yeah, it's not easy. So, and it's not to take jabs at anybody or be like, look at how much this person sucks. No, this is the reality of the situation. I think great people do stupid shit all the time and hurt people, and maybe it's not on purpose, maybe it is, but writing down the things, and I need to do this because I haven't yet, but because I get in, like Deidre said, I get in the loop. Why am I not good enough? Why wasn't he posting? Why wasn't he that happy with me? Why wasn't he seeing me off to work and kissing me? Why I work from home? But you know what I mean? Like, why do we keep going round and
Instead
round?
Instead of grounding back to, I am a fucking badass.
Right. I'm a badass bitch.
We need to remember this shit.
Make that sticker.
That's what we need. We need that sticker.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that.
Make that sticker. Yeah. So kind of going with self-worth, focus on your self-love. Check out our last episode. We talk about that. And being the bigger, better person. So I was watching a video and the guy said, be happy for them. And I wanted to say, fuck you. I don't want to be happy. I want to hit him with the bus. Like, clearly I have a lot of people I need to hit with the bus.
I'll be
I
happy
talk about
later.
it often. Yeah. So, but I understood it. Because
that's difficult.
It's very difficult, especially if you feel like you were lied to.
I'd rather be indifferent than happy for them. I would prefer.
I don't think indifferent's bad either, but I think, and we're going to talk about this in the next episode, healing through heartbreak, but, you can't hold on to negative energy. It only affects you.
It poisons you.
It does. It is not, if you're like fuck him. Why is he so happy? I hope he gets hit by a bus. You know, that is not affecting him. He's not carrying that negative energy. You are.
You are.
But I think, so if you can't find yourself to be happy, like, oh my God, I'm so glad that he's in love and blah, 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 I think being indifferent is probably just as equally good.
Yeah.
But you can't hold on to that negativity.
Can you imagine if you're so happy for them it fails and then you're heartbroken?
You're like, oh, I was rooting for you. No.
How far does this go?
No, I don't think we got to be that happy. But I think, you know, letting go of that negative energy is super important.
Grounding techniques. I'm just learning about these, and I think that they work. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, really, if you just bring yourself back to being present and remind yourself of things, it brings you back down. We're so prone to flying into the universe, especially emotional people.
So they're in a new relationship. You're going through your healing stage. You feel, because part of this is rejection.
Yeah.
And rejection is a huge thing, and it could be rejection from your career, something you're creatively passionate about, right?
Yes.
A relationship. So that, like, oh my God, I'm not good enough, rejection is hard to build your confidence back up with that. And I think the grounding techniques help, the writing down the things that you're grateful for, practicing self-love, all those things help build your confidence back up, because, like, my self-confidence took a big hit.
It does.
Big.
I always believe that pain is a window to healing, because it shows you what you need to water. Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes you look at, like, almost be excited about the pain in such a strange, macabre way, to be like, all right, I can tell that that's my ego. I know that that spot needs work. If you can't identify it, then you don't know, and that's when you're rebounding and you're filling a hole, because you don't know what the problem is. But if we just, like you said, face ourselves and sit still with ourselves, you can see where the pain is, and you can try to heal better and come out of it better.
Yeah. There was something that I was watching where it said, sit with your pain. Where do you feel it? Like, right now, my pain is in here.
Yeah.
It's, like, in my chest, and I carry it every day, even though it may not, I'm not going to cry. It may not come up every day, but I feel it still.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you ground yourself and sit in your pain, think about the first time you felt that pain in your life, and where were you? Like, what was it?
Oh, for sure.
Right? And then you realize,
You're
like,
just a
I was
child.
talking to my friend, and she was like, I did this, and I was taken back. I think she was in, like, a hypnosis thing. And she's like, I was taken back to the moment as a child when I saw my mother drive away, and I knew I'd never see her again.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for your friend.
Right?
Right, but doesn't it, human experiences as adults, we're just still children.
Yeah.
And a lot of our trauma goes back to these, like, very vulnerable triggers where it reminded you, or that, let's say that person, it reminded her of being completely and utterly powerless. Mm-hmm. And why other people trigger that irresponsibly, and it's our job to heal it.
Right.
And stop putting our value on other people.
I think the other thing, too, to realize, and we'll probably touch on this, too, in the next episode, is kind of some of my biggest blunders were my biggest blessings in disguise, right? And I'm hoping one day I look back at this moment and just laugh. Like,
that's my favorite thing. My favorite thing is that in hindsight, love is a tragedy and pain is a comedy. Yeah. So you look at your biggest blunders and you're like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
And it's funny. But sometimes love, and not always, but sometimes love, no matter what it is, you're like, what was I doing? It's such a tragedy because you put so much into it.
Right. So like I said, my relationship that ended healthy in a way. He probably could have talked to me more about his problems and issues that he had, but he gave me that closure or whatever, and that only took me 3 months to get over. I'm now almost 6 months in of this recent one, and we only dated for 3 months. So that's the thing too, that if you have a friend who's going through this,
good point.
The comment of you're only dated for 3 months, what's your problem, or time doesn't dictate your connection with somebody. And my friend told me that. She's like, I didn't understand why you're so connected to this person. You only dated them for 3 months, you know. And then also, don't diminish your friend's pain. It is not that easy to just move on. And what people usually do, we're going to talk about in the next episode, is distract themselves. And distracting is a temporary healing process.
Yeah.
You cannot distract yourself for that long. It will come back and hit you like a ton of fucking bricks.
Wherever you are, there you are.
Yeah. So, just a
be nice to your friends.
Be nice to your friends.
Don't and telling them to get over it.
Yeah.
Or telling them
now you can fully get over it. Okay, if it were that fucking easy, like let me just.
It's not our job to tell people what to do. It's to be there as a friend, whether it's a high day or a low day or a growing day or a whatever kind of day. People just need to be heard.
Yep.
That's all.
Yeah. Just listen. Because I'm a fixer, so when people come to me, I was like, oh, how can I fix your problem? I want to fix your problem. And
I've had to
they're
stop
usually like, I don't want you.
I've had to just listen. Like, learn to just listen and say less.
The same way.
Yeah, because otherwise then you're like, you have all the answers, and they're probably sometimes even reluctant. They're like,
oh, yeah,
I'm not there yet. I'm not ready.
Yeah, no, they just want to vent and talk about it. Let your friends vent, and they may be venting about the same thing 1,000 times, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. I'm sure I have.
And that's okay. Oh, I have. Trust me. My friends are probably ready for this chapter of the book to be closed at this point. So, but hopefully that helps if you're experiencing that you dated somebody and now they're dating somebody new, you know, and they're in a rebound relationship, you know, just hopefully, you know, focus on yourself, your self-love, your self-worth. Don't let that get you down.
Stay busy loving yourself.
Yeah, right. Do things that make you feel good, and you'll realize that the pain gets less and less. There'll be times where I'm working on this podcast or whatever that I don't even think about it. I'm like, God, that was such a good feeling. I went an hour and it didn't impact me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's baby steps. It's baby steps. Give yourself time.
Be patient.
Don't compare, because there is no comparison. You're awesome, you know, so somebody will love you. And remember, the right person chooses you.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, thank you guys. If you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you're listening to the podcast, we appreciate everyone's support. And we will see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.